Hey, and welcome to another YouTube video of some guy in a garage describing how he takes a car apart. This is a Lexus SC430, which is a V8 engine. I'm going to go and do the water pump and the cam belt. So I've stripped the vehicle all out, and now I'm going to show you the problems that I had taking it apart. Well, not problems, but just things that, you know, the other videos don't seem to show you. So there's the water pump. It's obviously the new one. This is the old one. Now, where I took it out from is obviously in this area. I'll try and get some light on there for you. There you go. This area here is where the water pump comes from. It's held on by various bolts and a couple of studs. Now, I found I had to remove the studs to be able to waggle the water pump to get it out, mainly because it was hanging on this O-ring on here. So you kind of take the studs out and you waggle it backwards, and when it still just amazingly holds on really hard, but eventually it does come out, so just persevere with that. Now with the studs, I think there is a Torx socket end for it, but do you know what, it's quite big and it's quite thin, the Torx thing, so I would put a couple of nuts on it, which is what I did. I lock them together and then kind of move the stud out that way, because it's just safer rather than breaking the end off. So that's kind of the water pump. So the water pump is now back on. As you can see, I've also put the new Cambelt on. When you put the water pump on, as I said before, the difficulty in getting it off was the seal at the back which goes in this pipe. Just be careful, put a bit of grease around the new O-ring, and obviously you've got a new gasket, and you use gasket sealer on the water pump as well. That just bolts back on, no problems there really at all. The cam belt, when I took the old one off, I marked the old belt in two places marked up with the casings each side, and I've transferred the marks onto the new belt just so I know that when I put it back on it was in the right position. And I also obviously marked the crankshaft down there as well, as you can see. The tensioner is easy to fit. On this one I fitted a new one. There's just two bolts there and there which bolt the tensioner on. New one goes up, goes onto this pulley, and when you take this out it clicks it up. And at the moment, which is quite tight really anyway, but this, you pull this out and that then puts the tensioner in the correct tension. That's a new one. I did replace it. This is the old one. Probably nothing wrong with it, but you know, 100,000 miles, probably worth changing it. Since I'm changing the water pump, I'm changing the cam belt, you may as well change the tensioner. The cam belt kit comes with new pulleys. Obviously the water pump's got a new pulley on it, so you know, it's all pretty good, it's all good to go. So bottom pulley, lower plastic cover, that's back on now, along with the pulley, and this plastic cover is just 4 bolts. When I did the timing, I timed it up to 0, and then I pushed, and I turned the engine over back to the safe spot, which is just there. So when you line your camshaft pulleys up, you're in a safe position. So when you take the cam belt off, it doesn't suddenly flip back and bend valves or whatever. That's in the safe, what they call the safe position. It's 50 degrees back from TDC. So just kind of do that when you time the engine up, and then when you take it apart, it won't flip back on you. I've also put the air conditioning compressor back on now. So this cover, if I can position my torch. So this cover with this pulley on goes back on, and then you have 2 bolts which hold the compressor on. You have one here. You can see that, can you? And one there, and then there's one down low as well underneath there, which they both go into, they actually attach into this cover. And there's an earth strap down here as well, don't forget the earth strap. And this little bracket on here is held on by 2 Phillips screws, crosshead screws, and I've replaced them with 2 little bolts, but in hindsight it kind of looks that you don't probably have to take that bracket off with that wiring to get to the compressor, the air conditioning compressor bolt anyway. But anyway, done. So that's all tight. And just keep going really. Serpentine belt tensioner in first. alternator back up, 3 bolts, or actually 1 nut, 2 bolts. Pulley back onto the power and steering pump, just put a bar in there to tighten the nut up, and then the cover, a small cover here, 2 bolts, and then the camshaft cover on there, which is just a few bolts, with the thermostat housing back on, pipe, just rubber seal in there, just make sure that you put a bit of grease around the seal, help it ease it in, and that's it really on that side of things. Nothing really complicated there to do. Auxiliary drive belt back on, just worth noting the direction that it runs. Probably worth taking a picture before you take it apart, just so you know which way it goes. The auxiliary drive belt tensioner is a left-hand thread, so you lift it like that to slacken it off. That also tightens the nut on the pulley. It's quite straightforward. All that's left to do now is put the radiator back in. All back together and running sweetly. Radiator went back in very easily, along with all the ducting, housing and stuff. No problems really with that at all. Nice little car to work on. Didn't really find any issues. Major ones. Cambelt's quite lengthy. But apart from that, you know, it was fine really. That was the replacement of the Cambelt on the Lexus SC430. Nice looking car. Hopefully you found the video interesting and informative. Until next time, goodbye.